had input from players, including players on the executive committee of the PA. We had inputs from college coaches, because I don't know if you watched the Final Four, there's pretty physical games going on there, but pretty great. And we had input, obviously, from hours and hours of review by GMs, head coaches, and the rest of our stakeholders. So, more to come on exactly what that will mean, but I think you'll see some changes in the officiating around that physicality this year. Obviously, it's going to take all sides to get used to it, the players and the officials, and I think that'll play out over the year, but we certainly want to make sure that we're putting on the best.
The Connecticut team is expected to hold a few home contests in Hartford and Boston during the upcoming season. As the franchise relocation process moves forward, transition arrangements are likely already in place, with conversations happening between management, front office staff, and coaching personnel in both Houston and Connecticut. Final details will be brought forward for a league vote, with more clarity expected over the summer. On the matter of officiating, a task force was assembled following the finals to closely examine how physical play has been handled by referees
And the officials, and I think that'll play out over the year, but we certainly want to make sure that we're putting on the best product on the court. Obviously, it's going to be a physical game, but we've got to draw lines, and I think you'll see some more lines being drawn around that physicality as a result of some of the insights we gleaned from the State of the Game Committee and the kind of what I'll call officiating subcommittee, where those were the people that were really watching the hundreds of hours of film.
Cathy, staying on the left side, row 2.
Hi, Cathy. Thank you for taking the time. Jeff Maglicetti with ballslife.com. I know the next CBA is long down the road in 2032.
The group reviewed hundreds of hours of footage and gathered perspectives from players, including those on the Players Association Executive Committee, as well as college coaches who have dealt with similar challenges at the collegiate level. General managers and head coaches also contributed to the process. Based on those findings, adjustments to how physicality is called on the court are expected to roll out this season. Both players and officials will need time to adjust to the new standards, but the priority remains delivering the highest quality product on the floor while setting clear boundaries around contact.
For taking the time, Jeff Maglicetti with ballslife.com. I know the next CBA is long down the road in 2032, but I'm sorry to...
What have you done for me lately?
But when it comes to that point, what do you think the league learned from these last negotiations that could be useful when it's time to negotiate again at that point?
Yeah, I think, again, as I've, kind of done some debriefing on process and things like that, obviously, the interesting thing is we all wanted the same things for the players. So we all had our list. They all matched. There were things, obviously, you used in...
Regarding the collective bargaining agreement, the next round of negotiations is not scheduled until 2032. The process that led to the current deal offered several lessons for the league. Both sides ultimately shared the same goals for players, even if the bargaining tactics occasionally appeared to diverge. The central challenge was striking a balance between meaningful salary and benefits increases for players while keeping the league financially stable, given how fragile women's sports economics can be.
Same things for the players. So we all had our list. They all matched. There were things, obviously, you used in negotiating and posturing and bargaining that we might have differed on, but ultimately we wanted to kind of strike this great balance between significant increases in player salaries and benefits with the economic sustainability of the league, because women's sports is very fragile and can be very fragile. And we wanted to make sure we were setting this league up, not just for the next 6-7 years under the CBA, but for the next CBA, which is why, you saw some things, games going up over time, housing phasing out over time, things like that to set up.
Longer-term planning was built into the agreement, with gradual increases in game counts and a phased removal of overtime provisions, all designed to elevate the professional structure of the league over the coming years. The final stretch involved 8 consecutive days and nights of negotiations, and the outcome produced immediate results, with multi-million-dollar contracts signed within days of free agency opening. Players now have the foundation to build genuine long-term financial security through salaries, benefits, and retirement contributions. The relationship between the league office and players went through a tense period during bargaining but has since improved.
You saw some things, games going up over time, housing phasing out over time, things like that to set up the professionalism of the league. So, of course, there's a lot of things we learned. Of course, that we would maybe do a few things differently next time, but I think in the final analysis, it's almost like you had to have the process as it is. If we had gotten done much earlier, I'm sure the players wouldn't have felt like they won and the owners wouldn't have felt good about it. And I think we got to a really good place, you know, at the end. There were 8 long days and nights, and I think next time I don't recommend a lot of all-nighters like that. So that's the number.
The executive committee of the Players Association and league leadership worked through difficult moments and reached an outcome both sides take pride in. Many of the owners involved are women who have spent their careers advocating for gender equality, and that shared background contributed to the collaborative spirit that ultimately defined the process. With Portland and Toronto joining the league, expansion is happening at its quickest pace in decades. One concern in growing the league is whether the talent pool can support more rosters without lowering the overall quality of play.
Long days and nights, and I think next time I don't recommend a lot of all-nighters like that. So that's the number one takeaway. But I think in the final analysis, I think, we really came together. The players were emotional. I mean, I'm pretty emotional seeing already $23 million contracts signed only 2.5 days into free agency. That's pretty incredible. And that's like now these players can build real generational wealth, including not just their salaries, their benefits, and their 401k benefit, and build real retirement and things like that. So I'm so proud of what we did together. And I think it's a moment.
Over the past several years, first and second round draft picks have consistently failed to make final rosters, which indicates there is more elite talent available than current team slots can absorb. The addition of development player spots, 2 per team, addresses this by creating a pathway for more athletes to grow into professional careers. The expansion rollout is intentionally gradual, with 2 teams added now, none the following year, and 1 additional franchise each in 2028, 2029, and 2030. The competitive balance this offseason, with significant player movement across teams, is expected to make for an unpredictable and exciting season.
Real retirement and things like that. So I'm so proud of what we did together, and I think it's a moment in time we'll remember for a decade or 2.
Cathy, next question, row 1, left center.
Hey, Cathy, it's Meg Hall with USA Today. Last year, there was some tension between you and the players in terms of the relationship that you had. How do you feel like that has progressed now that you've gotten through CBA negotiations and into this next season? And do you feel like it's gotten better since those moments and into now?
Yeah, obviously we were in the midst of, collective bargaining, and, I feel really good about the relationship.
On the question of international growth, the league has been actively exploring games outside North America. The current season did not allow for it due to scheduling conflicts, but the following year is when a game outside the continent is expected to happen for the first time. The 2028 Olympics also factors into long-term scheduling considerations.
In the midst of, collective bargaining, and, I feel really good about the relationship with the players. I just saw Nneka Ogwumike on the orange carpet, and we exchanged some great words with each other. I'm really proud of her, and she's headed back to LA. She called it headed back home, even though we know she's from Houston, but, just really good about that. I mean, I understand that makes great headlines and press and things like that, but, this executive committee of the PA and my team just worked really hard to do something historic, and I think the players understand that, we're on their side too. This wasn't a you side.
The league is already broadcast in over 200 countries, and Spanish language options on the official app are in development. Asia, Europe, and eventually Africa are all regions under consideration for future international engagement. The Indiana Fever avoided at least one problematic situation this offseason.
Who the hell knows at this point? Because, by the way, in this article that she wrote for USA Today, she claims she has been playing against men for 15 years. Who's a man in the WNBA? WNBA may have them a bit of a scandal coming after this article, because she claims she's been playing against men. Well, who are the men in the league? As
Brianna Turner, the outspoken activist and former Fever forward, will not be returning to Indiana. She has signed with the Las Vegas Aces. The departure comes just days after Turner published an op-ed in USA Today in which she openly supported the inclusion of biological males in women's sports, while simultaneously dismissing the concept of biological sex altogether.
Well, who are the men in the league? As 9,000 comments come in saying Brittany Griner. But you get my point. Breonna Turner, a WNBA player, far-left activist, published an op-ed opposing Olympic bans on men invading women's sports while also denying the reality of biological sex. Now, you may be like, well, Rhodes, is that what this video is about? No. John Matrix, my partner in crime, shot that video about her. It's over on the...
Turner also made a puzzling claim in that same piece that she has spent 15 years competing against men in the WNBA. That statement raises serious questions about who exactly she believes those men to be, and it may have opened a much larger conversation the league would rather avoid. Turner's departure from the Fever is widely seen as a positive development for the organization.
Matrix, my partner in crime, shot that video about her. It's over on the big channel. So go watch it. Good God. She is not part of the Indiana Fever anymore. Take the Fever jersey off. The organization shouldn't associate with that thinking. She's deranged. I'm pretty sure a trans woman can count down how many seconds are left on a shot clock. Louder than any biological woman.
Her off-court conduct had become a constant distraction, and many felt the team's association with her views was damaging to the franchise. Fans reacted to her exit with noticeable relief, with comments across social media celebrating the news. The general sentiment was that an activist of her nature had no place on a roster trying to compete at the highest level.
Louder than any biological woman. When that happens, Turner will be out of a job. It's crazy. It's crazy. Oh, for F's sakes. Yeah. Crackhead. I pray the Fever released her. Loser, far-left, activist, racist, the Indiana Fever gave her a platform, and Coach White is to blame. Wow. At Indiana Fever, embarrassing. She might be done in the WNBA. She's not. In this league.
However, the replacement move quickly replaced that relief with frustration. The Fever announced the signing of Michaela Onyenwere-Allen, a 6'1" forward, age 30, who averaged 7.6 points per game in 22 minutes of play with the Dallas Wings, the worst-performing team in the league last season. Fever supporters did not hide their disappointment.
In this league, you're an activist nutcase, and they award you by giving you a job. I mean, the Aces have signed forward Breonna Turner. Breonna Turner will not be returning to the Fever. No more shot clock. Oh, hell yes. Yes, this is good for the Fever because of her off-court stuff. She was a distraction. Goodbye. Now.
Calls to fire general manager Amber Cox flooded comment sections almost immediately after the announcement. Fans questioned the front office's judgment, pointing out the wide pool of available talent that went untouched while the organization settled for a fringe player from a bottom-tier roster. Clips shared of the new signing did little to ease concerns.
I don't know that it gets a lot better. Misha Hines-Allen is Indiana bound. Okay. So if you want a 6'1" forward that's 30 years old, that scored 7.6 points a game on 22 minutes, that played for the worst team in the WNBA in Dallas, congratulations, you got exactly what you wanted.
Observers noted a significant lack of size and length on the current roster, calling it one of the team's most pressing issues heading into the new season. The criticism extended beyond just this single signing. Fans pointed to a broader pattern of questionable personnel decisions, including what many described as favor-based training camp deals handed out earlier in the offseason. Comparisons to other franchises.
Congratulations, you got exactly what you wanted. I can tell you right now, this is not what fans wanted. This is not what fans wanted. Why the F would you pull this bullshit when I'm already having a shit day, you incompetent effing losers? GD, I hate my life. Woo! K, effing hell, Indy. This is the
New York Liberty, Atlanta Dream, Las Vegas Aces, and Los Angeles Sparks have all made aggressive moves to strengthen their rosters, leaving Indiana appearing flat-footed by comparison. The Liberty, in particular, have assembled a group that looks nearly impossible to match with what Indiana currently has on paper. On the positive side, several key pieces from last season's core have returned.
Best we can come up with shitting balls right now. Ooh, fire Amber Cox. Not perfect, but an upgrade on Bree Turner. You got a point. You got a point. You got a point. This is the final evidence of that recruitment here is complete garbage with all the players available.
Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hull, and Kelsey Mitchell are all back in Indianapolis. The starting unit remains a competitive group. The concern, as many have noted, is the complete absence of reliable depth and the front office's apparent inability to address it with the caliber of signings the moment demands.